any scenario, and I suppose it's a little bit devil's advocate, are there any scenarios where you might want to, like, say you have a category of error or issue that is like sub-zero, really bad,
Mm,
and
hmm.
where you want to build in a safety net to say, if we do see this error, then we do want to roll back. We want to automate that. Or is that still something you would try to roll forward?
I have quite a strong opinion on this. Um,
Go
if
ahead.
you if you can genuinely plan for the event, you can make yourself robust to it. So you might have an incident that was caused by, as part of your deployment, you need to call out to an API and your credential expires. And it's undesirable for that to happen halfway through your deployment process. So you might redesign your process to make a call early on to validate that your credentials work, and that makes it more robust. Great. That's the kind of thing you can do. So if you can plan for it, you can actually improve the automated process, not by rolling it back, but by making it more robust for working, right? And
Yeah.
it will tell you if there's a problem up front, and then it will try and do the deployment. If it's something that you can't plan for, then you don't know if a rollback is the appropriate response. So this is where you want to move from trying to have a robust deployment process to having a resilient one. And resilience comes from people making a decision. They need to look at it and decide what an appropriate course of action is. And everyone's doing things differently. Um, I think it's easy for us to think of it in terms of an ideal DevOps team, and
Yeah.
their database changes are always backwards and forwards compatible, and they've separated out all these dependencies, and it's great. But if you're working somewhere where maybe you've deleted a column and you've deployed your database changes and your new application version, if you roll back that application version, it's not going to work because it depends on a column that doesn't exist in the database. So now you have to also think, am I going to roll back my database, and how do I do that without losing data? So it's a much more complex thing. So it's quite situation dependent, but I think the real value comes from a human looking at it and deciding, and hopefully, as well as fixing the problem with the deployment or with the software, whatever, wherever the problem is, hopefully on top of that, they also think, is this something that we can now plan for so that we don't need to intervene again in the future?
Mm.
Yeah. Failure is the best teacher, and building out those processes, building out a robust process, building out, however you want to do it, the resiliency. And when you do have a failure like that, the answer isn't, I need to build a process that will roll back and on an automated fashion that will check it. The answer is always, this happened. How do I prevent that from happening again or causing some sort of error? Back to your point with the API, I worked on an application that we had to call out to at least 10 different APIs that was owned by like 5 different teams. And they could be doing their deployment at the same time, and that was fine. And so we built within the application code base itself the ability that if we reached out to that API and we got an error back that was unexpected, we would show a message to the user, and there's like a little pop-up. It's like, hey, we're unable to connect to this. Please try again. So basically, we stopped whatever we were doing. And then if it continued, we'd log the error and we'd monitor it. And if it continued, then yeah, we'd make note of it. But if it didn't continue, we'd be like, okay, the deployment completed. Because a lot of times it was just, okay, this was happening. I look at the deployment, they're deploying, they finished deploying, and the error stopped. I'm like, well, okay, I don't need to do anything else around it. And so the application was resilient, that, and I didn't have to do any other changes. And I'm not going to plan a whole rollback process around something like that. I'm going to make changes to prevent it from going forward. So it's almost like trying to plan for a black swan event. Like you
Yeah.
can't, you can't, because you can never expect the unexpected.